Welcome to Melanin Combos, where we hold space for real stories, sacred healing, and deep connection.
One faith, two voices, unpacking healing, culture, and everything in between. Let's talk.
Welcome to Melanin Combos. Today we're going to talk about what it is like going to therapy with your spouse, one, and also what it is like for me going to therapy with a therapist. If you don't already know, my husband is a licensed clinician. Can I say clinician?
Yeah, clinician, therapist, kind of all the same thing.
Okay. So Nigel is a licensed clinician and we're married. And we go to therapy together. And it's an interesting dynamic being married to a therapist, going to therapy with him. And just the whole idea of going to marriage counseling therapy when there really isn't a problem per se. So we're gonna really sift that out, talk about it. Yeah, maybe we'll learn something new today.
Yeah, therapy isn't really about, as you said, like fixing problems. It can also help strengthen communication, understanding each other, and just having that objective voice objective voice person to see your blind spots essentially, and just see what you may not be seeing or what your partner may not be seeing. So yeah, let's talk.
So something that like people have asked me about, I see this big, not a big, but I do see that people think that because you're married to a therapist that you're living like in bliss, or your husband is always showing up as emotionally intelligent as possible. Like you don't have arguments because you guys get each other and what have you. I think that's obviously a misconception because regardless of the fact that Nigel is a therapist, he is still a person. He still has his own traumas. He still has his own things he needs to work through. He just has, I guess, advanced skills to navigate and to help others navigate through their stuff. But I will say that the upside to having Nigel as my husband, who is a therapist, would be the fact that I think he is able to, again, give like me language sometimes to things that I'm experiencing that I'm not able to like land on. So sometimes like I'm flying my plane and I'm just like going around in circles. And sometimes like that's a good thing and I need that. And but other times it takes me a while to land the plane and really like be able to express what it is that I'm feeling, that I'm thinking, and Nigel's able to, I guess, in some ways circumvent that and just give language. I think also the upside is to knowing that my spouse, I think this is just in general the upside to knowing that I am in a partnership with someone who is a lifelong learner. So Nigel became a therapist years after finishing his undergrad, right? So we were married while Nigel was pursuing his MA. And I think that's something that's really important to me is that I'm with someone and that I'm around people that have dedicated themselves to being lifelong learners. I think that's the upside because regardless of what we may like face or go through, or whether it's education or learning how to deal with our kid, or if I became ill, I think that Nigel would have the capacity and the commitment to learn about how to navigate different situations and different things. Because I feel like you've committed yourself, I've committed myself to being a learner and wanting to learn and evolve. So I think those are the upsides to it. And yeah, I think those are the ways that like I benefit.
Yeah. Well, talk to me. Tell me about therapy. Of course, we go to therapy together, but what's been your journey like with therapy prior to us starting together?
So prior to me even meeting Nigel, so I would say like I've probably been in therapy for 12 years, but on and off, not
Mm-hmm.
consistent throughout those 12 years. So I think let's say about 2015, the university that I went to, because they have the master's program of counseling, they offered students 10 free counseling sessions throughout your undergrad program. So that was one of the like perks of going to this school. So in 2013, I actually started my therapy journey in couples therapy, funny enough. At the
Okay.
time I was dating somebody and like it was we were just having like a hard time, a lot of like mistrust. And so I was like, okay, let's go to therapy. So we
Mm-hmm.
went. And when the relationship ended, I continued going to therapy, which was really beneficial for me, just being able to confront a lot of like childhood things, family things, why I do things that I do, and just being given language to a lot of my experiences
Hmm.
without considering the relationship. I've been in therapy for like 10 years. So that has been my experience with therapy. It's been overall a great experience. I have had Christian therapists, I've had Black therapists, I've had non-Christian therapists.
Hmm.
And I think my favorite has been a therapist who doesn't identify as a Christian therapist, but in conversation come to find out that she is a Christian. And I think if I were to ever be a therapist, I think that is the lens in which I would do my work. Because even though my approach would not be like faith based, because I am a Christian, everything I do comes from
Hmm.
that. And
Right.
although she told me that she is a Christian, which was very helpful, like she was able to understand dynamics, truth dynamics that I would have to explain to somebody else, especially because she was Black and a
Hmm.
Christian, so she like really understood. But I did feel the care and the warmth and her genuinely feeling like I will move past like these feelings in this situation. When I was with that therapist, it was during postpartum, and I genuinely felt that like she had a lot of care for me. And I
Hmm.
feel like as a Christian, that is something like we genuinely have care for people. And I just felt that, even if she didn't tell me she was a Christian. There's that. What has your experience been like with therapy?
Yeah, I think for me, I either started therapy prior to our son's birth or shortly after. The
Mhm.
timeline, a lot was happening, so I don't remember the exact timeline. But yeah, it was a great experience. I had a Black male therapist who I was able to relate to. I think he was in the same circumstance of life in terms of being a father, being a husband, and at
Mhm.
that time I was transitioning into fatherhood at that time. And it's just as well like just started my masters during that time. We had moved across the country kind of thing. So just a lot was happening that he could relate to. But I think for me it was just having that space for myself to just talk about different things, and it was really the catalyst or around the time where I started doing my own like personal learning or personal development in terms of like the books I was reading and the conversations that I was having with certain individuals. So for
Right.
me, it was really, yeah, it was really great at that time. Of course, I haven't been in my own individual therapy for maybe about a year and a half now or so, or 2 years or so. But yeah, it was a great experience. And again, it was just really me having that space to unpack and talk about things that were just swirling around in my mind, things that I was
Yeah.
either wrestling with, struggling with, wasn't sure how to respond to it or said situation and whatnot. But yeah, it was a great experience. I think it's something that I would re-engage in at some point in time. But of course, like right now, we're in couples therapy, which is something we've wanted to do for quite some time, and every year we kind of just put on the back burner because
Hmm.
of other things that were just what we classified were just more important or just needed to be addressed at that time. And now we
And
were both
schedule,
in, yeah, schedule too. Yeah, we can say that
right?
too.
Because like when we started, we both started working from home.
Yes, correct. Yeah, we did both start working from home, with you being more centrally remote than me in terms of I'm kind of like a hybrid aspect kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of like just been my experience, and just being able to just be in that space where the focus is on me in a healthy way, and just being able to start, journeying through certain things and certain dynamics and experiences, and to get the tools that I needed, so to say.
Yeah. So now that we are in couples therapy, how is that like? What is like one thing that either has been difficult for you because you are a therapist in terms of how you show up, and what feeling has been difficult for you, and I guess what have you learned? Like, how have we been able to manage conflict?
Okay, I'm hearing like two questions, but I think for me, what's been difficult, and I don't even know if it's difficult, but I think, yeah, I would say for me, it's been like, I guess, trying to be the client in those spaces when we're in sessions.
Hmm.
and not be the therapist. I think, and I've caught myself doing it, so to say, just like taking mental notes of just like, oh, that was a good skill or a good question or this is
Right.
a good resource. I can take this and go use this with my own clients and whatnot. So I think that's been and difficult is maybe like a harsh word to use for that, but I think it's just something I've had to be mindful of in terms of just being present in the session and allowing myself to be present for myself in sessions. Because again, like being a therapist in therapy, there is that duality of like, yeah, you're going to think about yourself as a therapist in certain moments compared to being centered as the client.
Do you ever feel like, and sometimes I feel like this, like, I don't know if you've seen it online, the client that is like, what do they call it? The client that like knows so much about mental health that sometimes they aren't able like to show up authentically in session. What do they call it's called something.
I have no idea. I have not heard that terminology before.
That's annoying. But I guess essentially it's like it would if like for example like me
Hmm.
knowing so much about mental health, your own trauma, and like people who are able to connect those dots for themselves when
Hmm.
they go into session. Sometimes it's difficult for them to show up or to be able to be given insight because they know so much. Do you
God.
ever feel like that? Either that you know so much or that you have to show up in a different way because our therapist knows that you're a therapist.
No, I haven't felt like that, and I think our therapist does a great job in not making that a thing. Or I think when we've been in couples therapy approaching a year, or just under a year, or just
Hmm.
post a year, or whatever, and I think she's probably only brought up my occupation, me being a therapist, like maybe once, twice, maybe. And I think it was only in context of, it wasn't like a self defense thing, but it was almost a aspect of like, because I do this for a living, my mind is going to be framed a certain way more
Yeah.
often than not. But yeah, other than that, our therapist doesn't really bring that up, and I don't ever really feel like know it all or I'm supposed to be this person because I'm a therapist. I think if anything, those feelings may come up when I'm outside the space in terms of like the certain friendships that we're in,
Okay.
relationships, and though like that is more prone to happen, especially like you see those memes and things like that and around holiday times, like you go to family dinner and you're the therapist at the table and everybody wants to ask you a question. So like I've never had an experience like that to that
Right.
extreme, but I think I do feel that aspect of like because people know I'm a therapist, whatever, whatever. And then as well as like I also do naturally just my therapist hat just naturally goes on in certain conversations, and like I'm pretty good at recognizing it and saying like, my therapist brain is kind of going here,
Right.
step back, or let me say this, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, yeah, our therapist has been really really great with just allowing me to be a human in the session, or a person, so to say, in the sessions that we have.
Yeah, I would agree. I think what's interesting about like I think when I first because obviously we've never been to therapy together, and I've
Mm-hmm.
never even observed you in a session. So I think it
Mm-hmm.
was
Yeah, yeah.
not off-putting but surprising to me when we would go to session and I'm just like Nigel is so like you just like you share so freely, and I was just like what. I was like I wasn't expecting you to share so freely. I was expecting there to be a little bit more of like not a wrestle, but I was expecting her to have to probe you more and like to experience that not happening. I was just like, wow, like kind of like shocked about that.
Okay.
What else has been interesting about going to therapy with you is I think this is not unique to you. I think this is just me in general, that me sometimes feeling the need to protect you, like to not make you look bad. And I think like it's a me thing. It has nothing to do with the space at all or even therapy, but because we're in that space, I tend to like not like sugarcoat, but like I kind of like think a little bit more intently about how I share a grievance or how I'm recalling an event. And I think that's something that I I struggle with in general. Like I even like with family, like I have a hard time sharing if there was an offense or if like something was done wrong to me or if I felt like something was done wrong to me. I have a hard time recalling events and like sharing them because I feel like I need to protect the image of particular people. So I know I've noticed that with us in our counseling session, and
Hmm.
I overall like I've been trying to break free from not speak like from doing that, like not speaking my truth or not acknowledging that these things happen because I'm
Hmm.
trying to protect somebody else, not even in a malicious way. And I think in years past, like I say this all the time. Okay, if you know me personally, I say this all the time. If it was said, it could be repeated. Like I
Okay.
always and I say and obviously in context of like more so like gossip or
Hmm.
yeah, really gossip. So I've always been like, if you were able to say it out loud the first time, then it can be repeated.
Hmm.
And I've held true to that in action too. If you did something to somebody and you felt 10 toes down on what you did, then I
Hmm.
can end the story because you did it and you felt, not that you felt good, but you felt
Made a
confident in
decision.
what you were doing. So I shouldn't feel shame and try to cover up what you were doing if you felt good about it.
Hmm.
If you felt like this was a good decision. And I'm working through that. I'm working
Hmm.
through that. So I feel like that's something that's been interesting in our experience with counseling. I think that I wouldn't say that we didn't have tools before to figure out conflict resolution. I think before counseling, our conflict style, I mean, we have come from two different type of conflict style.
Yeah,
Where
yeah, yeah.
I'm very much, I mean, I still very am much like this. Like I want to argue, like I want the banter. I want us to go back and forth. I want us
Hmm.
to figure it out and have not, I don't want to say a solution.
Hmm.
I don't know what the word is. Maybe you can help me, but not so much a maybe a resolve, not necessarily a solution, but an understanding of why that decision was made or why you did what you did.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Would that be considered a
Yeah,
resolve?
yeah. I think it's just that clarity, that understanding. Yeah.
Right. So I want to get the clarity. Like I want that in one sitting, and so I think coming to counseling, and so that would be one of my approaches. And I think since being married, we've learned, or I've learned, that doesn't really work.
Hmm.
And I think one of our conflict resolution styles prior to would be to address it like head on, to have the conversation. Also, it would be avoiding. So I don't want to say avoiding, but like we just wouldn't talk to each other.
Avoiding.
Okay. Avoiding. And I would say, I think something that we've done more naturally, and I don't think this is was a result of counseling. I think this is something that we have done would be, let's say for instance, we had an argument or something and we talked about it. Like let's say today, Thursday, didn't have a resolve. There was no like repair, no nothing. And then by like Monday, we would have like a sit down, very intentional, vulnerable conversation about it, and then there would be a resolve or some form of repair that would happen, like a few days later.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that
yeah.
has been a key to, and we talked about this in therapy too about well, I me particularly not loving that cadence, and wanting us to repair a little bit more quickly.
Hmm.
And I think yeah, what would you say our style was prior to?
Yeah, I think all that you said was pretty accurate. I think that cadence of wow, my mind just drew a blank. That cadence is the aspect of where we have that argument, we may have initial resolve, but then a few days later we kind of be more intentional with that actual conversation. I think that
Hmm.
just naturally happened or formed just because of like I think just like circumstances, schedules, things along those lines. Kind of just we kind of fell into that rhythm. But I also think it's just that aspect of like I don't know if it's a promise we made, but more so maybe like a conversation agreement in terms of just like life. We don't stop being a couple just because we're at odds with each other, or if there's an argument, like we will still some still try to maintain some sort of level of communication.
Mm, yeah.
Still go about our regular routine or rhythm in the house, even if we're at odds. So we'll still, say bye, give each other a hug, a kiss, whatever the case may be. When leaving, still checking in, like all of that. So that never really
Yeah.
stopped. We still made sure to do that. And I think that just maybe was the catalyst for the cadence of like, disagreement today, kind of table it a few days, but then we come back and have that more
Mhm.
intentional conversation. And while you don't,
Let's talk about that because I think we discovered that in our first year of marriage. Like I don't know if you remember, I don't remember what we argued about, but I do remember us having a conversation about the repair part. Like I'm really big on repair.
hmm
Like I was that's my mantra for life,
hmm
repair.
hmm
And I think in our first year of marriage, we had a conversation about repair. And I think you were maybe like shocked by me still treating you in some ways the same, even though I was upset with you. And
okay,
me like explaining to you that regardless if I'm upset with you, like I still love you and I'm still going to treat you as if I love you.
hmm
I'm not gonna like treat you like I don't
different,
love you
right?
or differently. Like maybe different. Like
hmm
maybe I'm not talking to you in the same way or we're not like as physically like intimate, but I'm not gonna treat you like I don't love you because I'm upset about something or I'm hurt about something.
hmm
But I think if I remember correctly, you were a little bit caught off guard by me still wanting to like give you a hug or like to give you a kiss or like even trying to engage in conversation when you knew that I was upset with you. Do you
Right.
remember that?
I don't remember the like verbatim situation, but I think there's been moments where I felt like that.
Okay. And yeah, anyways, what I remember from that first year is me just having to explain to you that I can be mad at you and yeah, still show you love. And I think that has a lot to do again, like with
hmm
my own childhood, my own experiences of like dealing with my parents being upset with me and feeling ostracized
Yeah.
and feeling disconnected. And
hmm
I think, and I even our first year of marriage, like I don't think I had, like I had language, but I can't recall when I came to the resolve of repair above all else. I can't tell you when I came to that resolve,
Right. Right.
but I did, and I think that it's one of my like values in life.
Yeah.
Just repair above all else. So repair with you, even like how I parent no our child. Repair above all else, because I need him to know that even if I'm upset with you, even though I am correcting you, that like I still love you
hmm
and still go about our day and still continue having fun and loving each other, even though you did something that was upsetting to me.
hmm
Yeah, so what was like off putting about that? Or what has been off putting about that for you? Or just caught you off guard?
Yeah. I guess reflecting on that, I think it was just different or just new. I don't. I can't even say like it was something I saw like what you did. I can't say I saw that growing up, but I also don't think I saw the opposite in terms of like being ostracized and I guess isolated. But I do think the aspect of repair wasn't something I experienced probably or in that way. So I think repair really maybe started from like my on my mom's side or like in terms of like me and my mom's relationship and if there was conflict or what the case would be. And oddly enough, I guess it would be repair would have happened from her even if it had nothing to do with her kind of thing. So she would
Mm,
always be that that gap filler, so to say.
mhm.
So with that, maybe it's the aspect of like I'm at odd you're at odds with me, but you're also playing the role of the gap filler kind of thing. So maybe that
Right.
was what came up for me, what made it feeling weird or different. But I think, yeah, it was just something unfamiliar. And I think as well, just like you're married, right? Like first year of marriage, we're now living together. So like how you handle conflict is different. Like if we're at odds dating, we're not living together. It's hang up the
Right.
phone,
We can
see you
have
later.
space.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can just have that space, and that space will just be an extremely long time for the most part. And not in terms of like days, but like you're going if and most oftentimes we had conversations like in the
And
night
it
or
could
whatever.
be days because like we were living in two different cities.
Yeah,
So it could be, it could
yeah,
be.
yeah,
And
it
we were
could
both
be.
working full time
Right.
and
Side
part time.
jobs, yeah.
So
So it could have been, yeah. But yeah, I think it was just that aspect of like, yeah, this was new, this was different and wasn't sure how to respond. And then, of course, it's all those internal thoughts about self, essentially, that's like coming up as well and whatnot. But yeah, it was different. It was just genuinely different experience. Yeah. Yeah.
As we're having this conversation, I'm like, oh, we're talking about repair, but we haven't even defined the word. Don't ever want to take for granted that people know what we're talking about, especially like repair is like a clinical word.
Hmm.
So I don't ever want to take that for granted. So can you define repair? What is repair? What does that
Well,
mean?
yeah. Repair, in my own understanding and definition, is really just a form of reconciliation. It's really just coming back together with an individual and just reinforcing the standard you have for them or the aspect of your stance towards them. So it's always just keeping, I would like to say, like keeping the main thing the main thing. So, like, yeah, I'm at odds with you, but my love towards you doesn't change, or
Right.
the position or stance you hold in my life doesn't change or has not changed. So it's really just reminding that person that even though we are at odds or there was a conflict or something happened, this is just where we are at, and just reminding them of just who they are. And sometimes that's needed as well. Like, you're just reminding them of like who they are, their identity, their connection to you, and things along those lines. So
Yeah.
that's my little understanding there.
No, I think I agree with that definition, and that is what I would have said, what I believe repair is. So, since we are talking about counseling, going to therapy, what is something that has been impactful for us going since we've been going for a year? What tools have we gathered in that year? For me, I think something that has one tool I think that has been really impactful is the State of the Union. And I'll let Nato explain what it is because I always mess it up. But I found it very helpful in
Hmm.
terms of giving us something to like it's a very much a system, and I think it's as I'm saying this out loud, I'm just like it's so interesting because therapy almost lends to a particular personality type in terms of the modalities and like the homework you get. Like our therapy sessions very much lend to our personality type. We are pretty much type A people. I don't know if I'm totally type A, but
Hmm.
nonetheless, we are blend to a type A personality, and I think our therapy sessions, and I would even argue that a lot of therapy like setups,
Hmm.
and I guess we would call them modalities, lend to someone who is of type A. And why I'm saying that is because a lot of the resources that we've gotten, so our therapist is trained in Gottman
Yeah.
modality.
It's more of like a tool. Like the Gottman Institute is like relationship aspects, like relationship, marriage, and all of that. So
Yeah,
it's,
he is like,
yeah, so it's not necessarily like a modality. I think it's
what
just
is a
more.
modality?
So modality would be like a school of thought. So it would be like cognitive behavioral therapy or
EMT.
EMDR.
Oh, EMG.
But yes, EMT, emotionally focused therapy, is another
Okay.
one. Didactical therapy. Like, there's a lot of different modalities, school of thought.
Isn't storytelling or like a narrative like something like that?
Narrative therapy, yeah, that's another. That's,
I should just go get my master's, huh? Yeah, so I think because our therapist is trained in the
got me.
no, the oh my goodness, what do you call the business?
Therapist. What,
The
like,
practice that we go to is like relationship
yes.
practice. That's what I'm like, what is
Oh,
that?
yeah, yeah. So the therapists that we attend, they work at a private practice, and that owner specializes in like marriage and relationships and
That's the
family.
word. Wow.
Oh, okay.
Right. So because that's their specialty and Gottman specializes in all of that stuff,
Hmm.
she gives us like tools and like steps and like resources that lend to like there being steps and like homework and
Hmm.
all those things. So I think that's like again, it lends to our personality. So I love the State of the Union. I think it's very helpful. It has been very helpful for us. And in terms of like resolving conflict, so now I'll explain how does the State of the Union work?
Yeah, State of the Union is comprised of four steps, I believe. Step one, you would be expressing appreciation to your partner
Hmm.
about them. So, what is the one thing you appreciate about them? And it all depends on like the gap of time. Sorry, the gap of time in between the last time you did it, but essentially just, expressing appreciation to them. Second step is expressing appreciation to your partner in regards to the actual relationship. So step one is appreciation to the individual person. Step two is appreciation to the person in regards to the relationship that both of you are forming and have together. Step three is where you take the time to express a disagreement, a tiff, an odd that you have with that person, taking the time to communicate and express what that is, why that is a thing for you, how that has impacted you. And the last step is that coming together is what is one thing that you and your partner are going to do that allows you both to reconnect or build a connection together. So both husband and wife, have the opportunity to repeat these steps essentially. So like the husband will go, wife goes, you can take turns. But it's really just having that space and that language really to guide you through navigating a disagreement, because really that's what like the State of the Union is. It's that tool to handle conflict and to have that space or guided language to communicate when you are at odds, when something has happened and you need that support to communicate how you're feeling, to share how you're feeling. So
And I would just add, I believe in step four, because I don't want people to be like, well, then how do you resolve the conflict? I'm pretty sure, I think we can find an add to the show notes. But in step four, there's an opportunity after you shared your grievance, there's an opportunity for you both to figure out how are you going to compromise or what can be done to alleviate the grievance. I don't know if that's a whole step or if it's part of step four, but nonetheless, is like while like I'm sharing my grievance,
mhm,
and I just shares his grievance, and then be like, okay, I think one time when we did this, it was about the dishes or like the kitchen. So my compromise or how I'm working to resolve the conflict would be, okay, I'm going to be more intentional about putting the dishes in the dishwasher.
mhm,
That may mean I'm doing it after Nolan goes to bed at night and not after we've eaten dinner. So that would be like the compromise or how we're going to resolve that. And we did this with our therapist like in the session with
mhm,
us. I think that the undertone or the underlayer was she mentioned about that it may not be perfect. Like I may not do that every single day.
right,
I may not hit all 5 days of the week doing the dishes in that manner or cleaning up the kitchen in that manner
right,
after our kid goes to bed. And just acknowledging that part. And then there was opportunity for Nigel to share like what he would, um, how he would work to resolve whatever my grievance was. I don't remember. And then, of course, the repair. And a lot of the repair was how are we going to connect? How are we
right.
going to do something together to reinforce connectedness in the relationship.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I enjoy doing State of the Union. No, I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say it's not practical. It is practical because as you learn, as you practice doing it,
It'll
it
just be
becomes
ingrained. Right.
and
Yeah.
you'll just do it more naturally, maybe not in the same like systematic way, but you'll be able to confront your partner about conflict in that manner and a little bit more common and a lot more level-headed,
Hmm.
which what I, Nikita, need because
Hmm.
Nigel is already pretty level-headed and calm when it comes to. I think I've only heard you like raise your voice a handful of times. So
Or I would even say a handful. It's
yeah,
very
probably less than that.
rare.
Incredibly rare. So yeah, I do appreciate that. Is there anything that other than the State of the Union that has been impactful for you?
In terms of
Anything.
tools, I think State of the Union was really great. I think therapy has just really been that space for us to unpack and get language to what each other is feeling, thinking, and how to approach it. And
Hmm.
I think that has just been like something really great for us because we strive to learn, strive to stay informed as possible, pending topic, and just being learners and also just being people that like we just strive to do things differently. It's just been that space where like we don't go into therapy thinking that we are broken or that we are undoomed they valley, whatever the case may be. Like, we really just see therapy as a resource for us that helps us get to where we want to, where we want to be, essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't have any regrets with therapy. I don't have any regrets with like couples there. Like, yeah, I don't have any regrets. I think it's been really, really beneficial and just a space for us. And I think even the pace that we attend, like we go once a month. We don't go every 2 weeks or weekly. Like, we go once a month, sometimes hour session, sometimes 75 minutes, and they're great. Like, it's been, those times are really great, and it's just an opportunity to unpack. And essentially, like, the work doesn't stop there just because you go to therapy. It's not,
Yeah.
you did the work. Like, the work is really after. So like, there's a lot of,
Hmm.
we're intentional, like having conversations about therapy or what came up or how we're feeling, you know, the attempt to implement the tool, the resource, whatever the case may be. Yeah, so like, I would just say, like, just grateful for it, really.
Yeah. I really like that she challenged us to schedule fun.
Yeah.
I really like that she did. And I think for me, that's something that I'm just like, if I have to, like, I think because our lives are so scheduled, and Nigel, you can, like, I mean, this could be a whole podcast episode, like, my gripe and grievance, and, like, just, I guess, even, like, heartbreak around how scheduled our life is, and there not being a lot of room for spontaneity. And I didn't realize how much I liked spontaneity, because I would typically say, like, I'm a type of person, like, I want it to be scheduled, but I didn't realize how much I crave it,
Hmm.
and had it implemented in my life.
Hmm.
So when she would tell us to schedule fun, I'm just like, lady,
Hmm.
if I have to schedule, it's not fun.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I think part of it, and I do think this should be a whole podcast episode, because I think a part of it is, for me anyways, having to grieve the part of my life that looked a certain way, and I was hoping that it would stay a certain way, and, like, obviously grieving the people and the systems that would help it to stay spontaneous
Hmm.
ish.
Hmm.
And so I think that's what made it difficult, but I do like that she does challenge us to do, and she asked us, like, if we, what we did. And I've obviously learned that just because we had to schedule it doesn't make it any less fun.
Hmm.
It was fun. Like, we did a date day last month,
Yeah.
and we went to the rec room, and it was still fun. Like, we did that. We did, what else we did? We went out for dinner, got
Couples
massage.
massage. Yeah.
It was all still fun, even though, like, it had to be scheduled. So I do enjoy getting homework, and I think
Hmm.
she has really, or just the experience has helped, again, like I just said, give language, but to also help us, like, make what's important important,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is, like, the connectedness between us. Like, I think we spend a lot of time, or we have spent a lot of time, and there's nothing wrong with us spending that amount of time on, like, building our family dynamic and spending a lot of time with our son.
Hmm.
Also, partly because it's just us, so, like, we don't really have a choice but to spend all the time that we do with our son. But we have focused a lot of our energy on building a family dynamic, building systems for our family.
Hmm.
That we, like, our relationship has taken a back seat
Hmm.
ish, in a way.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that she, like, holds us accountable to that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think it was fun, like being able to schedule fun. And I think and maybe that's the difference between me and you. I think, like, I don't want to say I'm open to things, but to me, it's just like, whatever has to be done, just fine. Yeah, sure, let's do it. So, like, if it was that aspect of having to schedule it, then I didn't see a problem with it. And I think she even mentioned it in, like, therapy. It's like, everything else that's important to you, you schedule it. So if it's an appointment, if it's you booked a flight somewhere, like, whatever it
Mhm.
is, like, it shows up in your calendar, something that you booked. So why not schedule whatever? So
Yeah.
I think that's
But I
just
guess
always
I
been.
feel like I see scheduling as rigid, and
Hmm.
I feel like a relationship, like, there should be, like, fun and bubbliness and, like,
Hmm.
and I don't see fun and bubbliness and childlikeness as rigid. So, like, it doesn't compute to me that it could still be, like, two things can be true essentially, but
Yeah,
it wasn't computing to me that can still be like, I don't know,
yeah,
but
I
yeah.
understand what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. So before we wrap up, what is one thing you've learned from having a therapist as a spouse that other couples might find helpful?
I think a really huge misconception, and I've heard people say this a lot, like, I need to have a therapist that is married. I can't go to a marriage therapist that isn't married, or I can't like talk to my therapist about my family because they don't have any kids. I think that is a huge misconception, and I think being married to a therapist has really opened my eyes to the fact that these are skills. Just the same way you go to school for accounting to learn skills, the same way you
Mm-hmm.
go to school to be like, I don't know, graphic designer, you learn skills. Being a therapist, you're learning skills. So the lived experience, sure, it may inform the skills, but you
Mm-hmm.
don't have lived experience in order to teach someone a skill, right?
Mm-hmm.
Teachers learn skills. You know what I mean? So I think for me, like I still see my husband's humanity, that you are a person, you have your own things that you're working through. So although yes, I would say that my husband is emotionally intelligent, there are times when he does not show up with the most emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a human and he's still
Yeah.
working through things. And for a lot of like what we are doing as a family, we are the first to do it. We've never seen anyone do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that will inform how we show up. But I do think the fact that I know that the skills that my husband has are skills. He's learning the skills, and that doesn't mean that he needs to be a certain thing in order to have the skills and to teach the skills, and that he's still human.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense, but because that's like, I don't know, that's something that really grinds my gears a lot because I don't know why we see advice and clinical support as the same because they're not the same.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, your therapist does not need to have lived experience in order to support you learning a skill.
Yeah. So, but for those listening, I encourage you to consider therapy and how it can really just support and enhance your relationship. Attending therapy does not mean there is a problem. It doesn't mean you are on the road to divorce and this is the last resort. Yes, for some that may be their context, but therapy is really just another place, another space where you can get the support that you need outside of yourself. You don't know everything, you don't know all things, and it is okay to, trust someone or go to a professional who does know more than you, essentially, and
Yeah.
able to give you the tools, the skills to navigate your lived experience and your current situation, so to say. Yeah, yeah. It's all about growth. It's all
Yeah.
about growth.
Yay. Well, I don't know how to close this out. You always close this out.
Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share your thoughts with us. Thanks for tuning in. I hope this helps. Love you. Peace.